Individuals who have difficulty in the stabilization and formation of synapses. They have gene mutations that affect that specific process, and there are supplements and medications now that affect and can help with the process of synapse formation and stabilization. And so if you identified that, you could then target therapies in that way.
So this is sort of going where the rest of medicine is going, which is personalized medicine. There's no such thing as autism. It's a whole series of different, what drug do I give, but why is this happening, and how do I deal with that?
Yeah. I do. I see too often that once the label of autism is given,
Incurable disease with no real treatment.
Which has a good influence. That influence and healing takes place. On the other hand, sometimes a system is difficult because if you have something bad happen, that also can spread through the system and make for mischief. The drugs are important sometimes for
vitamins and supplements that over the course of weeks and months radically changed his developmental trajectory. So he began to speak, began to interact socially, his gross motor and fine motor skills improved dramatically. And so he continued those therapies up until when I met him, which was at age 8. And at that point, he had been doing well, he was mainstreamed in school, but he was beginning to refuse to take the large quantity of vitamins and supplements. And so he'd been inconsistent with that, and he was having a period of regression. So his symptoms were worsening. So he'd made dramatic progress, and now he was struggling again. He was struggling in social interaction, high levels of anxiety, headaches, daily migraine headaches, and obsessive compulsive behaviors. So severe that he had trouble walking down a sidewalk because he was retracing his steps. It was hard to get out of the house in the morning. And so this was, of course, alarming to his parents. And with resuming mitochondrial therapy through L-carnitine, coenzyme Q10, B vitamins, some very basic supplements, he began to improve again. And now he's a thriving junior high school student, plays competitive travel soccer, is in a mainstream school, and is doing incredibly well.
It's an extraordinary story. And yet when you go to the doctor, most of the time they don't know how to diagnose mitochondrial dysfunction and probably never heard of mitochondrial therapy.
That's right.
Tell us about your work in mitochondrial discovery of how this is connected to autism. Because mitochondria is the place where we make energy. And it seems like a lot of his symptoms were an energy deficit.
Yes. He had very low tone, fatigue, delayed milestones, all of which are associated with mitochondrial impairment.
What are mitochondria anyway?
So mitochondria, if you think about the cells of the body, nearly all the cells of the body have inside of them mitochondria. And mitochondria are they're classified as a subcellular organelle, so they're tiny structures inside of cells.
Like a cell within a cell.
Yes, and a cell can have dozens or up to thousands of mitochondria. And mitochondria are sometimes called the powerhouse of the cell because one of their main functions is to generate energy. And they do that in the form of ATP, which is thought of as the currency or the fuel, the energy currency for the body. So mitochondria are a powerhouse. They do a lot of other things. It's interesting that they're called the powerhouse because, in fact, they're actually very delicate structures, and they're very sensitive to environmental factors, stress, toxins, oxidative stress.
They're easily damaged.
They're easily damaged, but they're so important for all of the body's functions. And the brain is particularly dependent on the function of mitochondria because it has such a high energy demand. So the developing brain is hugely impacted by mitochondrial function.
It's like you run out of gas, right? Your brain doesn't work, and so the brain doesn't have a lot of ways of responding to insults, and when you lose mitochondria, you get all sorts of problems, whether it's Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism. And as you said, the mitochondria are really sensitive to insults. So what have you found are the worst offenders in damaging the mitochondria?
There's a term that's sometimes used called secondary mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning not due to a genetic cause, but due to other factors like inflammation, physiological stressors, medications. So there are antibiotics, some commonly used psychiatric medications that are commonly used in children, in young children with autism, like risperidone.
That's an antipsychotic.
Yes, and it's very, very widely used in the treatment of autism.